I am George Dalla. I'm the Physician-in-Chief and Vice Dean here at JohnsHopkinsAllChildren'sHospital. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today and joining us. It's wonderful to see this auditorium so full of friends, family, colleagues, and supporters who are here to recognize the accomplishments of Dr. Jim Quintessenza, or Dr. Q. The induction and dedication of an endowed professorship is an occasion that also brings together the leaders within the larger Johns Hopkins medicine family. So thank you, Dean DeWeese, Kevin Sowers, and Duke Cameron for flying in this morning to conduct this ceremony. And I would like to thank Duke for coming all the way from Rome to be here, to be with us today. I'd also like to thank the many Johns Hopkins All Children's trustees in the audience that have supported the organization as well as the Heart Institute all these years. In particular, I do also want to thank the Cobrans for starting with the inaugural Cobrans professors back in 2019. And Janine reminded me this morning that it was about this time in 2019. I think we have this tradition of doing it around Halloween with all these professorships and chairs. And thank you to the philanthropic gift from the William V. Pitts Estate for making this momentous occasion a reality. The dedication of an endowed professorship has become an honored part of our pediatric academic health system since joining the Johns Hopkins family in 2016. Today's ceremony marks the 5th professorship for us. It is my hope that Jim is among the many inductees as we continue to recruit and retain the best and the brightest professionals in pediatric care like him. The program book does a perfect job of explaining what an endowed professorship is, but I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you what it means to me as the Vice Dean and the Physician-in-Chief to take part in this occasion. And truly, of all my titles and many roles that I've played within the Johns Hopkins medicine for the past 20 years, I am getting that old, I'm sorry. I think I cherish the David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair that was inducted back in 2021. I think these endowed chairs in professorship date back, as you can see in the booklet, back to the 1500s, 1600s, but it wasn't until the 1720s that in the United States there was the first established endowment given to the Harvard Divinity School. And really, I think the requirement for me is, it was a simple requirement at that time, that they should be a person of solid learning in divinity, of sound or orthodox principles, one well-gifted to teach, of a sober and pious life, and of grave conversation. And I think, Jim, you meet all those qualifications. On a personal note, I think these endowed professorships enable us at Johns Hopkins All Children's to enhance our vision of creating healthy tomorrows for one child, for all children. They allow us to attract, retain, and reward exemplary clinicians such as Dr. Q and researchers who share their passion and leadership along our 4 pillars of treatment, education, advocacy, and research. I think to the holder, Jim, these professorships recognize your continued contributions as well as providing funds to push the frontiers of scholarship. The funds can propel clinical and translational science and research, help lead to new discoveries or new innovations, create new care pathways, or create opportunities for collaborations with scholars and innovators around the world. To the junior faculty and students, I think one professorship can touch hundreds of lives through the programs they lead, the staff and the students they mentor, or through their own academic work. These junior faculty do not learn just from the books, but they learn from rubbing elbows with real-world leaders of innovation and discovery. And finally, to the donors, I think the donors provide the funds for the overall improvement of the hospital and the university, but some may have personal interests in specific areas of interest, such as in this endowed chair. By funding these positions, chairs, donors can convene the brightest minds to focus on a particular problem or issues and spur advances in pediatric care. It is my honor to begin this program to honor Dr. James Quintessenza, and I'd like to call upon Dr. Ted DeWeese for the presentation of the professorship to the university.
George, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and a real delight, frankly, to celebrate and dedicate this Henry V. Pitts professorship, or actually chair, in the Heart Institute, and to really celebrate a very important person in Johns Hopkins, all of your friend, our colleague, Dr. Q. Jim, congratulations on this award. It's beyond the weather, because it was a little colder this morning when I got down here, but beyond that, coming to All Children's again, a place that I know you're all biased about, but so am I, so are we. You heal children and you stitch families back together. That's what you do here. That's what you've done here. That's why I am so proud that All Children's is a part of Johns Hopkins. And Jim, you're really a great reflection of that. So thank you for that. I remember when I came down here last year and I got the first big tour, and we happened upon I guess we were in the ICU, I think, at that time when I first met you, Jim. And you had just come out of a case. We were chatting about that particular child, and then a couple of the cardiologists came by, and one of the nurses came by, some other person on the therapy staff, and just watching the team that you had put together, that All Children's has to care for that one child, but of course all the children, the dedication to it, the team building that has happened here because of your leadership is really impressive, and I was impressed then, and I remain that. So thank you for all that you've done for us. You know, we're very fortunate, of course, to always have generous donors throughout Hopkins, and you so too have here at All Children's, particularly in this particular chair. And endowed professorships are one of the highest honors that we can bestow on a faculty member that helps to support the things that, you know, we do in academia. You do discovery, try to improve the human condition, translate that into clinical care, and then you're training new leaders of medicine to continue that virtuous cycle. And they do two very important things, these endowed professorships do. They provide opportunity, of course, to retain and recruit outstanding leaders, but they provide both stability and the opportunity to be creative because of the stability. The stability because there's funding available to help cover some of the work costs that come along with that particular faculty member's job, so they're not having to focus all moments of the every day making sure they can cover their work. So because they're not having to do that, then they can be more creative. I promise I'll stop doing that at some point here. They can be more creative and do the things that they do, new techniques for managing children, new pieces of discovery that might drive a new kind of test, of course, training new leaders in the field. That creativity is that virtuous cycle that I talk about, and that's why these endowed professorships are so very important. And Jim, you know, you'll hear today from many other people too who know you better than I do just why this honor is even more important than what I'm able to project. But I just want you to know on behalf of all of Johns Hopkins, of course, All Children's, why we feel this so strongly about it and that you are the inaugural holder of this for us. So because endowments are held by the university, they must be formally presented to the university. And so today I'm very excited to present this professorship to the Johns Hopkins University Provost, Dr. Ray Jaiwardena. I'm working on that name too. Yours isn't the hardest one today, Jim. Jaiwardena. And Dr. Jaiwardena is a renowned astronomer, actually quite world-renowned. And he's brand new to Hopkins. He came to us from Cornell, where he was the Dean of Arts and Sciences at Cornell. And he's been at Hopkins all of, I think, 2 weeks. Literally, maybe today or yesterday was his 2-week mark. So because he just took office, he's not able to be here today, but he has recorded a message for us. So this time, I would like to formally present the professorship, or in this case, the chair of the William P. V. Pitts Endowed Chair in the Heart Institute to the Johns Hopkins University. And now we'll hear a word from our provost. Jim, congratulations.
Thank you, Dean DeVries, and good afternoon. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but I wanted to take the opportunity to honor this special moment for All Children's Hospital and Dr. James Quintessenza. It is my pleasure to formally accept the William V. Pitts Chair in the Heart Institute on behalf of Johns Hopkins University and All Children's Hospital. You will hear more about the incredible story and power of philanthropy behind the late donor, Mr. William V. Pitts, later in the program. For those of you who know Dr. Quintessenza, also known as Dr. Kiwa, I'm told, you know that he's a passionate and talented pediatric cardiovascular surgeon, and he has dedicated over 30 years to healing children. This endowed chair will ensure that Dr. Quintessenza and the Heart Institute he leads will continue to set new standards of pediatric clinical care and to pursue innovations that enhance quality and safety. Of all the gifts a university receives, few make a more profound and lasting difference than the creation of an endowed professorship. It represents an enduring source of a university's excellence and impact and enables us to recruit, retain, and support the world's finest scholars and clinicians. An endowed professorship provides both permanence and flexibility for our faculty, ensuring that their work receives continued support and recognition. Those who hold endowed positions at Johns Hopkins are leaders in their fields. They are the pioneers charting new courses of discovery, and they attract the brightest and most promising students here. These are the faculty members who bring prestige and honor to the Johns Hopkins name. Their work makes this a preeminent university, and their ability to expand the frontiers of our knowledge and enhance human well-being comes in no small part from the robust support of an endowed position. James, warmest congratulations to you on this tremendous honor.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janine Rabin, and I serve as Executive Vice President of our Foundation and Community Relations Division. In my role at Johns Hopkins All Children's Foundation, I have the true honor of being able to steward gifts from people with a dedication to our hospital. They seek out ways to make an impact on families who are in our care. On occasion, we receive philanthropy with the potential to be truly transformational. And the estate of William V. Pitts is a true testament to not only the power of philanthropy, but the power that a planned gift has on helping to transform an organization such as Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, when the stars are perfectly in alignment. This organization was a contingent beneficiary for this estate. This gift actually has its roots back to the early 1950s. It was in 1953 that Mr. William V. Pitts, a resident of Pinellas County, Florida, commissioned his last will and testament. Upon his death in 1955, he bequeathed funds to his spouse and also to the Lakeview Cemetery for care of 5 plots to be cared for in the Congregational Church of Hione, New York. The remainder of the estate and the residue he bequeathed to his named trustee for several purposes. The trust was to terminate when all of the beneficiaries were deceased. The funds then remaining after the trustee's commissions and expenses were to be divided in 2 equal parts, 1/2 to the Egypt Temple Shrine of Tampa for the benefit of any crippled children's home owned or operated in the state of Florida. But in the event that the Egypt Temple Shrine had no crippled children's home in the state of Florida, then the bequest would go to the American Legion Hospital for Crippled Children in St. Petersburg, Florida, which, those of you who don't know, that was our original name. Under this situation, the planned gift was realized by Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital after the 2 conditions of all the named heirs had passed and the non-existence of the Egypt Shrine Crippled Children's Home in the state of Florida did not exist. And it was in 2019 that all of this transposed, finally. That's when the stars aligned, and the Pitts gift was, we were notified that we were the beneficiary, and that we were named nearly almost 100 years ago, when we were named nearly 100 years ago as a crippled children's hospital. At that time, it really was a natural decision for us to align this generous act of philanthropy with an endowed professorship, to both serve the lasting legacies of both the fund and how we think of professorships. It was in 2019 that our Board of Trustees voted to actually designate this new gift to become the William V. Pitts Endowed Professorship in the Heart Institute. The Heart Institute has increasingly become a foundation priority, especially as we rebuild it under the expertise of Dr. Quintessenza. Dr. Quintessenza served as a division chief of cardiovascular surgery at JohnsHopkinsAllChildren'sHospital for 23 years. Returning to the hospital in 2020 after 3 years as chief and professor of pediatrics, cardiothoracic surgery at Kentucky Children's Hospital and the University of Kentucky in Lexington. Under his supervision and leadership, we provide expert, comprehensive cardiac care to children and adults with congenital heart conditions, serving families throughout the greater Tampa Bay area and way beyond. When we received word that the Pitts estate would come under the direction of the foundation, we immediately thought of how much Dr. Quintessenza has brought to this organization. Q, as you have heard, he is affectionately called. I think you've been called Dr. Q, but I think there's those of us who just call you Q. He's not just a wonderful surgeon. Q is a fine colleague, and he's a lot of fun, too. Some of my earliest memories of Q, now from almost 12 years ago, are not of Q in an operating room where he literally makes miracles happen, but it's of Q in a band, playing his rock and roll. Q is generous, Q is thoughtful, he is so mission-driven, and he holds us to a greater standard of quality and compassion. On behalf of our foundation, its Board of Trustees, and the William V. Pitts estate, I want to offer our sincere congratulations to Dr. Quintessenza on this achievement. It's my pleasure to now introduce Dr. Duke Cameron, Professor of Surgery for the Division of Cardiac Surgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital, who will introduce Dr. Quintessenza.
Well, thank you very much, Janine. It is an absolute pleasure to be here and to introduce Dr. James Quintessenza and to tell you a little bit more about him. Jim grew up in a small community in South Florida, right outside of Fort Lauderdale. And coincidentally, I grew up in the same community. We lived about a mile apart, but we didn't know each other. It was my loss. Jim attended college and medical school at the University of Florida, Gainesville, and then received his cardiothoracic fellowship training at the University of California in San Diego. After fellowship, he returned to the Tampa Bay area, where he joined a very established and well-respected cardiothoracic practice. Jim had a very strong interest in children's heart surgery, and under his direction, the pediatric program, largely based here at All Children's, grew to be the largest and the highest quality pediatric program in the state. It offered the full spectrum of children's heart surgery, from complex neonatal operations to heart transplants and even mechanical circulatory support for children with heart failure. This was very unusual outside large university-based traditional programs, and it caught the attention of pediatric heart surgeons and cardiologists throughout the country. The program was also remarkable for its academic productivity, as it published many important papers in our field. They hosted a major journal and hosted an important annual educational conference with people attending from all over the world. When All Children's became part of the Hopkins family, we in Baltimore were thrilled by the added depth and breadth that Jim and his team brought to Hopkins, and we felt incredibly fortunate. Jim is indeed a surgeon's surgeon. He's technically gifted in the operating room, and he has a vast experience in congenital heart surgery with superb clinical judgment. He is also a gentleman, a strong team player, and a compassionate caregiver. As a surgical innovator, he he developed and refined a technique to create a new pulmonary valve for children born either absent of that valve or with deformed pulmonary valves. And this is a technique for which he is internationally credited. I've been lucky to be in the operating room with Jim in St. Pete, in Baltimore, and Cuba. We have attended meetings together all over the world, and he even let me play in his rock band. And I must tell you that when you form a rock band with surgeons, it's a problem because you end up with about 5 lead guitarists. But that was never a problem with Jim. I know him very well, and I can say that he represents everything to which children's heart specialists aspire. And I'm delighted that his accomplishments are now recognized by the William V. Pitts Endowed Chair. And I'm also grateful today that Jim is joined by his family to celebrate this event. His wife, Susan, sons Nick and Anthony, his sister, Lisa, who went to high school with my brother, and her husband, Charles, and Susan's parents, Joe and Kathy. Welcome to all of you, and congratulations to all of you. I would now request that Dean DeWeese return to the podium, and Jim, could you join as well?
Duke, thank you very much. Dr. Quintessenza. God,
That's it.
I got it. I've been working all morning. But Jim, everything we've talked about today only, I think, scratches the surface of our admiration. But honestly, Jim, what you have done for Johns Hopkins in a very difficult time is remarkable. And for those of us just on the faculty at Hopkins, I want to thank you for that, truly, truly. So on behalf of the School of Medicine, Jim, I'm pleased to present this medallion to you as the inaugural recipient of the William V. Pitts Endowed Chair in the Heart Institute at Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital. Again, congratulations, Jim. So many pictures on my phone.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, family. First, let me just state how appreciative and honored I am to receive the inaugural William V. Pitts Endowed Professorship. The opportunity to be part of the Johns Hopkins family, to be recognized and supported in this way, is truly special. I'd like to take a few minutes and share some personal insights about myself, how I got here, and without getting too deep into the weeds. I am the son of an Italian father, Argentinian mother, who immigrated to this country with little formal education, but a strong work ethic to make a better life for themselves and their family. My parents provided me the opportunity to go to college, one of the first of my immediate family. Then on to medical school, surgical residency, subspecialty training in cardiovascular surgery and congenital heart surgery. I was recruited here by Dr. George Dykhoff to be mentored with the hope of developing into a successful congenital heart surgeon. I certainly owe a debt of gratitude to George, as well as some of the original cardiologists here at All Children's, James Henry, George Giroux, who's here today, Rick Martinez, who couldn't be here today, who gave me the opportunity to mature and gain experience. They supported me and believed that I could do this work well, somehow. George thought it would be valuable for me to go away and spend some time at various other units to watch and learn and bring back to All Children's what I could. And I observed some of our most iconic surgeons of the time who were at the top of their game. Aldo Castaneda in Boston, Ed Beauvais in Michigan, Claude Planchet in Paris, Hillel Lax, UCLA, Leonard Bailey at Loma Linda, just to name a few. They were gracious and willing to share their expertise without reservation. I certainly owe them a debt of gratitude as well. Over time, I've had the opportunity, many opportunities, to continue to learn the craft of congenital heart surgery. It's been an amazing journey, not always easy, but one that I wouldn't trade for anything. Being a congenital heart surgeon requires technical precision, good judgment, as well as a variety of other skills. It's a very high-profile, stressful, and wonderful job. We interface with parents, care for their most precious asset, their children. We are privileged to be granted the opportunity to really change lives, and mostly for the better. It demands an attitude of putting the patient at the center of decision-making, doing the work as best as it can be done for every patient, every day, every time. If you consider the history of congenital heart surgery, which began in the 1950s, most lesions, significant lesions, were lethal. When I started my career in 1989 as a young attending here, there was still very high mortality and morbidity. Many patients struggle just to survive. It's been an absolute joy to be part of a specialty that over time has achieved better and better outcomes to where now essentially 98% of our patients survive, and many, if not most, enjoy a very reasonable quality of life. We've made incredible progress, but there is so much yet to be done. This work cannot be done by any one individual. It's a true team sport in medicine. And I've been privileged to work side by side with many bright, hardworking, and dedicated colleagues and coworkers. Some of you are here today and have had this pleasure for years, if not decades, and you know who you are. Individuals that put in countless hours, endured incredibly stressful times, but always had their hearts in the right place to do what's best for our patients. I'm also very grateful and appreciate the patients themselves who have taught me so much over the years, and their parents who have stood by, often helplessly watching their children go through some really difficult times. Life as a cardiac surgeon begins being starstruck by your mentors who are doing incredible things for their patients. You then learn and begin doing some of them yourself. You continue to apply what you've learned and importantly innovate to make things better than they ever were before. Over time, you become one of those mentors that young learners now are in awe of, and you hope they stand on your shoulders and make progress beyond what you could have ever achieved. It's a wonderful passage of the baton. At this point in my career, I hope to continue to provide technical expertise in surgery and, of course, teach and contribute daily to the care of our very complex and fragile patients. But very importantly, as many of our patients still face significant challenges, my goal is to inspire others to be intellectually curious, to ask important questions, think outside of the box, and carefully innovate to make things better. The Pitts Endowment's support for research and investigative activity will certainly contribute to these efforts. I still love what I do. Just ask my wife why I get up every day and go to work without complaining. So I could go on, but let me close by really thanking my family, my wife Susan, my two sons, Nick and Anthony, who's endured a lot through my career, and we've been blessed in many, many ways. I appreciate and would like to thank my sister Lisa and her husband Chick, as well as Joe and Kathy Wall for traveling here for this occasion. And a special thanks to Dr. Duke Cameron, who traveled from Rome, which I didn't realize, for his kind words and his unwavering support over the years. Let me thank my friends and my colleagues for their support and tolerance of my many ideas all the time. I'd like to thank Johns Hopkins leadership, our trustees, the entire Hopkins family for giving me this very special honor. And of course, thank you to the Pitts family for this very generous gift. Thank you all.
Q, you know that the worst thing they could have done is to give me the last word. There are words that have been written to me, but as I was watching this transpire, it's a time that I need to speak from the heart. I remember the first time that we spoke on the phone, and I remember the challenging times that you and I talked about. And I remember those moments because that's what this board is about. And we should all be reminded that in the end, good still wins. And you are a representation of the best, of being willing to come and rebuild the program to what it is today, because the children of this region need you and your entire team for their health and healing. Just like we have every facility from our national capital region to our hospitals in Maryland, all the way down to St. Pete, We are all committed to excellence and healing hearts of the children that we serve, and you are a great representation of that. So today I say congratulations, but I ask you to walk away and remember, good still wins. Thank you all for being here today.